Welcome to another session of Let's Solve, and today we're going to solve voicemail, and particularly we're working on how to leave a voicemail that gets returned. As so many of you know, you leave voicemails all the time and they never get returned. Let's start by looking at a timeline real quickly. For a long time, until probably about 1980, when you called somebody to leave them a message, pretty much since the invention of time, they had a little notepad, and it was pink, and it was where you could leave messages, and you had 5 or 6 lines where you can leave a message. And then, well, I guess about 1985, we came up with another technique, and that looked something like this. A person would call, and by the way, this is a salesperson, and that salesperson would leave a message. And if you've ever, you'll see when I kind of get this message going, if you've ever been to training, almost all the training that you go to about how to leave a voicemail pretty much tells you the same thing, which is, oh, you got to be really good at leaving messages that sound like you really know your stuff, and it should sound like it was written by somebody on some famous street in New York City, and you end up looking like this sales guy that you and I and everybody in the world have been. But the problem with that salesperson is that that's very different than the voicemail and the way that it was intended. So let's take this guy here and shrink him down and sort of put him right here. About 1980, this started, and what it started being was, see if I can get a different color so it'll be a little more fun, somebody leaving this really long message that is basically a giant blah, blah, blah message. Up until about here, voicemails were returned. After here, voicemails stopped getting returned, and if you look at this graphic the way I look at it, I think the reason is fairly clear, and it is that we, as a sales profession, have gotten away from this style of message. So what I'm going to advocate in this presentation is that we stop being this person, who, by the way, there's about 1,000 of you that call this same voicemail every day, and you all sound exactly the same, and my message sounds the same as your message. I just have different words, and I'm advocating we get back to being this person. So let's talk about why. First of all, there's some major problems that happen with voicemail, and one of them is that this voicemail, when you're leaving your value proposition, it is a major one-way street. You're basically giving that prospect information that does not allow for them to ask questions, does not allow for them to inquire more, does not allow for them to understand if this applies to them in greater depth or not. And the reason you're doing that, the reason that you're doing that is because they can't respond. You're leaving on their voicemail. I don't know about you, even my elevator pitch, I've never given it to somebody without them having some kind of response. I've never given an elevator pitch where the person said, that sounds fantastic. Call me tomorrow and we'll buy from you. The other problem that you have, so let's call that, by the way, problem number 1. The reason I suggest that we should stop leaving voicemails the way we have been, being this person. Stop being that person. The reason is, second reason is, basically voicemails all sound the same. Now keep in mind, I'm not only a salesperson, but I'm a CEO of a company. I get these voicemails all the time, and if you remember Mad Libs, do you remember those? Fill in the blanks, X, Y, Z, fill in the blank, use an adjective here, use a noun here. Everyone's voicemail sounds like basically the equivalent of some kind of voicemail, a Mad Lib. It's amazing how many voicemails, they all use the same formula. So even though we think we're leaving this great voicemail, they all sound exactly the same, as though they were written on some internet site and everybody's using that. The second problem with voicemails, the way we're leaving them today, is everyone's voicemail sounds the same. Problem number 3. Everyone sounds like this salesperson. Now, he's attractive, and it took me a couple months to learn how to draw that just right, but he says, buy from me, and this is all about me, and I'll tell you how I can prove this. How many times do you leave your phone number? I'm willing to bet you leave it at least twice, and maybe 3 times. And we're told, well, leave your number a couple times, because the first time they'll hear it, and then the second time they'll be able to write it down, and in case if there's a problem with that, say it slower the 3rd time. So they really have a chance to write your phone number down. There is no other profession in the world that leaves the number more than once. So by leaving it 2 times or even 3 times, you're saying, I'm a salesperson, buy from me. I'm calling because I have a quota, or I want to buy a boat, so please call me back. They're not going to call you back because you sound like a salesperson, and salespeople, according to most decision makers, are a waste of time. The biggest issue, though, the major issue that I'm concerned about, is that you are giving this person in a 30-second or 45-second blip the ability to make a decision, or the request that they make a decision. And the reason that's a problem is almost nobody will make the decision yes. Almost everybody will make the decision no. You're saying, think about whether my value proposition is right for you and call me back. Think about whether or not I can save you money and call me back. Think about whether or not you want to spend time with somebody who has a quota to hit and call me back. And almost always that person says no. Now here's the big, big problem. When they've said no and you call back a 2nd time and a 3rd time and a 4th time and a 5th time and a 6th time, this person is thinking to themselves, what on earth is going on? I already told this person no. And the way decision makers work is when you've left them left them a voicemail and given them the chance to make a decision, and they've made a decision, they stick with that decision. So by giving them the ability to make a decision, you're putting yourself in a situation where you'll never, ever be able to call back again. So how do we solve this? Well, it's real simple. We go back to our old way of doing things, and let you look at this. Let's see if I can do that a different way. Sorry here. Let me have you look at this based on the time. We'll call this decision maker voicemail timeline. And here's how this basically works. There's a period of time here for about 2 to 3 seconds where they have no idea what's going on in this voicemail, and they're just sort of starting the message. And then there's another period of about another 8 seconds where they're open to whatever is happening in the voicemail. It could be a customer calling saying, I need something. It could be their spouse calling to say, hey, don't forget to pick up the milk. It could be a salesperson calling with a prospective product, but they're open during that time. And then what happens is right here, during this time, they are making a decision. The decision stops right here, and they almost always hit the delete key, or they'll call back. But almost always, if what happens is that person decides to go beyond this important time frame here, they hit the delete key. So here's you, here's my message, and I'm more rambling and wandering and going all over the place, and here's me, and here's the way I suggest you do it. Your voicemail should be that long. When you stop it right here, you stop it by giving them time to be open, giving them time to make a decision, doing it before this magic time where they say no. So how do you do that? It's very, very simple. Get back to leaving voicemails as though they were doing it with a message. And the way you do that is you leave your name, your phone number, once, your company, and don't end this the way every salesperson in the world does by saying, thank you, I look forward to talking to you, thank you for your time. If you want to end it with anything, I'd say, I'll be in the office till 4:30. The last thing I'm going to say is thank you or anything like that. That's how you get a voicemail return. Try it. Let us know how it works. Call us if you need anything. Our number is 888-99 quota. And you go to hityourquota.com to learn more.